Hey guys, I'm Papa Pete, back today with another episode of the 125. Now, the 125 is my YouTube show that highlights one of the 125 original games for the Intellivision System that were released between 1979 and 1989. It's a little bit different type of show in the fact that it consists of more than one video. It's going to consist of not only this review video where I talk about the history of the game, a little bit about how I feel about the game, but it's also going to include a gameplay video that's going to be something totally separate. Be sure to check that out after. I'd also like to mention for the very first time that the 125 now has a new sponsor, www.intellivisioncollector.com, for all your Intellivision needs, whether it's common games, rarities, homebrews, or variants. Be sure to check out IntellivisionCollector.com for anything you need. Anyway guys, today's episode of the 125 features Frog Bog, so let's take a look.
Are you ready? Oh, please.
Line up, you fucking nerds. Who wants a shot at the champ?
Whoa. Who's going down?
Taking the title, old man. The game is Frog Bog.
Let's do it.
Frog Bog was released by Mattel on May 25th, 1982 as part of their Action Network. Like a lot of the Mattel games back at that time, it was produced by APH Technological Consulting for Mattel, and the lead programmers were Peter Kaminsky and Tom Sulanilla. Kaminsky was also involved in the came-to-be unreleased Mattel games Airstrike, as well as The Adventures of Tron. At first glance, you may write off Frog Bog as being a game that's totally and completely for kids. And even though it is a great game for kids of all ages, there's no doubt that you'll see as I explain the variants of the game that it could be a great game for not only kids, but kids and adults alike. The object of Frog Bog is very simple. You're a frog sitting on a lily pad in the middle of a pond, and you have to jump up and catch flies to survive during the day. Now, the ultimate object of the game is to score more points than your opponent by catching these flies. Now, Frog Bog can be played by either 1, 2, or even 0 players, because any time that a frog goes uncontrolled for 20 seconds, or only 10 seconds at the beginning of a game, the computer takes over the frog and it starts playing as artificial intelligence, collecting score against you. Also, there are two main modes of play in Frog Bog. There's the daytime game, and there's the nighttime game. And ultimately, that's how the player starts the game. You start by selecting either day or night on the gamepad. If you select day on the gamepad, then it starts off in the morning, it goes through the bright sunny afternoon, into the evening, through dusk, into the night, until finally the stars come out and the frogs go to sleep. If you choose the nighttime mode, it starts off at night and the frogs have to jump and catch flashing fireflies in the moonlight. And the game proceeds as the moon wanes until it finally goes away, the stars come out, and the frogs go to sleep on the lily pads. At the end of the day, no pun intended, both games are actually 3 minutes long. Coinciding with the two modes of play, there are actually two different elements that can be adjusted to create different levels of difficulty. First of all, there's the tongue. You can either have a manual tongue where you control the flick of the tongue to catch the bugs, or it's an automatically flicking tongue that catches the bugs when they're nearby. The other element is the jumping, and you can either have a fixed arc jump where the frog jumps from one spot to the other, same spot time after time, or you can have a player control jump where you actually control the height, direction, and distance of the jump by controlling them with the gamepad. By combining these different elements, you have three distinct different difficulty levels. The easiest level has fixed arc jumping, which means when you hit the disc, the frog just jumps from one spot on one lily pad and jumps at the same height, same distance every time to land on the other lily pad. And also, as far as the tongue goes to the easiest level of difficulty, it automatically flicks out to catch bugs when it gets near them. This is the easiest, like I say, easy level. It's perfect for young children because really the only element that you're adjusting is the timing of when you hit the disc, and everything else is automated. Great, like I said, for young kids. The medium difficulty level still has the same automatic tongue. It flicks out automatically to catch bugs as it goes by. but the player can control the jumping of the frog. You control that by using the disc, pushing at different angles, different directions on the pad will adjust where he jumps, and by holding it down for different levels of time, adjust the length, height, strength of the jump. Now the thing about this is, it is rather difficult to control. It really takes some practice because it's awfully easy to miss a lily pad altogether and end up in the pond. And then you lose valuable time by swimming back and climbing onto the lily pad. The hardest difficulty level still has the manually controlled jumping, but it adds in the element of having to manually hit your top side button to flick the tongue out to catch the bugs. It really is quite challenging when you put both of those elements together. Now here's the interesting, and I'll sort of say unique thing about the method of choosing the difficulty level. Remember a little while ago I said that you start the game by choosing either night or day. Well, if you choose the daytime game, both players automatically start at the easiest level, fixed arc, automatic tongue. And if you choose the nighttime game, both players automatically start at the medium level, player controlled jump, but the tongue is still automatic. Once the game begins, each player can independently change their own difficulty level to the one they want by pushing one of the buttons at the very bottom of the keypad, marked with the 3 different levels. This is really quite ingenious because it allows players of different skill levels to play against each other. And this is especially important, allowing kids and adults to both have fun when playing at the same time. Once again, the object of the game is to score more points than your opponent. You have 3 minutes to do so by jumping up and catching the bugs that are flying around. Now there are 4 distinct types of bugs that are worth different levels of points depending on how fast they move and also how erratically they fly. The easiest bugs to catch are worth 5 points, and they fly quite slowly and they always go in a straight line. Then the next 2 levels of bugs are worth 10 points and 15 points, and they move a little bit faster each one and then also have a little bit more erratic movement flying around the screen. The final bug is the most difficult to catch, and it's worth a whopping 25 points, but it's a very small fly that moves quickly and flies all around the screen, really quite hard to catch. And this creates one of the most important elements, strategic elements in Frog Bog, if there are such a thing. But the biggest strategic element of Frog Bog is whether or not to go for the slow and steady bugs with the constant little point increase, or to really go for it all and try to get the high scoring, hard to catch bugs. I don't think there really is a good answer to that question. It's just whichever one works best for you. The graphics aren't anything fancy in Frog Bog, but there's just something pleasing about them. It's really just a static screen with a background, 2 lily pads sitting in the pond, the bushes and trees in the background with the sky showing through some clouds. The frogs are just single color sprites, but they're very well animated as they jump up to catch the flies or go in the water, swim back to the lily pad. They're just really well done. And speaking of the flies, they're just single color sprites as well, but they are very distinguishable from each other. The different point values, they are very distinct in size and shape. Really easy to tell the difference. And you can't talk about the graphics in Frog Bog without addressing the transitional effect that it has as it goes through either the day into the night or through the moonlight into the darkness. And the background colors are just done very well, especially in the daytime, from the early morning sun when you start the game to the bright sun of the afternoon, into the dusk of the evening, and finally into the nighttime. And at nighttime, as I said before, the flies all become like fireflies and they flash and flicker. And it's a really neat element added to the game. Really adding not only to the ambiance, but to the anticipation of the game ending as you're trying to score points. Frog Bog has some pretty decent sounds for a game from the early 80s. Most prominently, of course, you have the spring of your frog jumping, and you have sounds like of the tongue flicking out, the splash as he goes into the water. Plus the bugs themselves, they make different sounds as they flutter through the air. But one of the things that's sort of the neatest of it all is the ambiotic sounds that are created as the day turns into night. there's just different sounds you can notice right down to the point where as the game ends, there's crickets in the background. Again, the sounds of night. And it's really well done, really creates a nice ambiance. And overall, I'd say that the sounds in Frog Bog are very good. We didn't have Frog Bog when I was a kid. Remember, that was back in the early 80s. I was 13, 14. My brother-in-law was 27, 28. And we'd go in to buy a game. We'd see Frog Bog there. We were familiar with it. It was in the catalogs and such. We knew what it was, jumping and catching flies. And we'd always opt to buy the latest space shooter or sports game or something. And for whatever reason, for better or for worse, we just never picked up the game. Many, many moons later, like it was 2006, 7, 8, in that range somewhere, I was watching the movie Grandma's Boy, and I couldn't believe it when the big challenge turned out to be Frog Bog for the Intellivision. Oh my God, what great promotion for Intellivision at the time. Of course, you know, that was the era where it was pre-flashback, but retro gaming was getting big. You had Intellivision Lives, Intellivision Rocks, all these things were coming out. They were building more and more into retro gaming, and Keith Robinson had the Intellivision still promoting it, and I'm sure he was absolutely thrilled to see it in that movie. Anyhow, I don't know what it is about this game. It's just frogs sitting on a lily pad, jumping up and catching flies. But there's just something relaxing, something, like I said before, the ambiance of the game is just very, very appealing. The graphics, like I said in Frog Bog, are pretty good. And the sounds, I really like the sounds. The gameplay is fun as well, but in the long run, I don't know if it would have any longevity. I don't know if it's something that you go back to and want to play over and over again. And that really detracts from the overall appeal of the game. But I still enjoy a nice, relaxing game that you can throw in and play a little bit now and again. So with all of these factors taken into consideration, I'm going to give Frog Bog by Mattel Electronics a 6 out of 10 rating. Well, guys, that's it for today's episode of the 125. Don't forget to check out the gameplay video that goes along with this for a little bit of gameplay from Frog Bog as I go through it a couple times. It's really kind of a lot of fun to watch. Again, you'll see what I mean by the relaxing atmosphere. I'd also like to thank the official sponsor of the 125, IntellivisionCollector.com. Don't forget to check out Intellivision Collector if you have anything that you need for the Intellivision system. And if he doesn't have it on the site, send him a message. He might just be able to help you find it. Anyway, guys, don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you next time on the 125. Take care.
Papa P, the old ass gamer. Papa P, the old ass gamer. If you haven't grown up by the age